Hello there, this is Out Motorsports. My name is Jake, and this is the 2021 Volkswagen ID.4. We've already driven one of these very briefly, and we're hoping to have a longer go with another one. However, this is a quick drive of the ID.4 all-wheel drive. So previously I drove the rear-wheel drive car. Now the all-wheel drive cars are here with more power and, of course, all-wheel drive from that second motor on the front axle. So let's do a quick walk around of this ID.4 all-wheel drive and then get behind the wheel for some first driving impressions. Coming around, this is obviously just an ID.4. They haven't changed anything with it for the sake of adding that second motor, but kind of an interesting color here. You've got the flat Volkswagen logo everywhere, and this is the all-wheel drive Pro S. So this is one of your more loaded trim levels, I suppose. And coming back around to the back, it is again still an ID.4. This one has the tow package on it. These are not rated to tow a whole lot. It's a small receiver, but it'll be fine for something like a bike rack, or if you want to tow a very, very small something, I guess you can tow with it. Now, opening your back hatch, it's of course a power hatch, and you've got some good room back here. This is an honest, 4 to 5 passenger vehicle. So you've got some good cargo room back here. And then inside, we've got a slightly different interior from the ID.4 I drove previously, with some brown accents on the dashboard. Otherwise, kind of the same interior you'd expect from any other ID.4. So with that, let's hop in and see how it is to drive. So driving the Volkswagen ID.4 all-wheel drive, this is the second ID.4 I've driven, and this follows the rear-wheel drive model that I drove at the public consumer test drive sort of event a few months ago. And I thought that the rear drive version of the ID.4 was generally good, but I thought it was a little slow. And it's not actually that slow. It's like 201 horsepower out of a single motor at the back axle, and Volkswagen says it's good for a 0 to 60 time of like 7 seconds or so, which is honestly plenty for most people. But obviously, we are a channel that caters to enthusiasts. There are plenty of enthusiasts out there, and they want a little bit more than 201 horsepower in a fairly heavy EV. Every EV is, heavy enough at this point. This one is the ID.4 dual motor, so you get all-wheel drive by virtue of it being 2 motors. You got one on each axle, and it's good for another 94-ish horsepower on top of what you have. So you're right at that 300 horsepower mark, more or less. And let's see how it is. We're obviously already at speed here, so I'm just going to stand on it. That is not throw you back in your seat acceleration. It's not Tesla levels of acceleration. However, still plenty quick. It gets the 0 to 60 down to 5-ish, so it's a pretty good change. Definitely quick enough. I'd be much more happy with this from an enthusiast perspective compared to the single motor ID.4. Absolutely much happier there. So if you thought the ID.4 was an interesting vehicle, but perhaps wanted a little more juice, you'll get it out of that. I'm also using the service brake pedal here to slow the car. And you don't have to. I think if I click this to B, that will do regenerative braking for me. So yeah, there's a little more regen braking. But the regen braking on this is not super strong, and I think that's by design, because Volkswagen, really wants this car to feel just like a car to people who are perhaps not super eager about EVs. They're a little more tentative. So you're not getting all of the super high-tech feeling vibe in this car. This just feels kind of like a crossover that happens to be fully electric. So kind of nice to have that. And then as far as curves are concerned, the nice thing, I liked the rear drive ID.4 for this. I threw some off ramps. This is, all the batteries are in the floor. You've got a low center of gravity. It handles well enough for what it is. This isn't positioned as a performance EV necessarily. It's not like something like, say, the Ford Mach-E GT, where that is positioned as a performance vehicle. Definitely a quicker version of the ID.4, but it's still just more kind of an average appeal to everyone sort of vehicle, which I think it does. And I think the people who thought the rear drive car was too slow will be happy with this, and otherwise, it's a totally pleasant place to sit. Still not a fan of the fact that the rear window buttons are accessed by pushing a little spot here that's a touch sensor for rear, and then using the same 2 window buttons, like why not just use 2 more window switches? It seems like a very strange thing to do. Beyond, I don't love all the touch stuff, but I don't love that in any car that's all touch. I'm pretty adamant that it's not the safest way to do things, so I would prefer to see that be different, but you know, that's me. People have different feelings on things. Now I have to turn around. Nice, high enough quality backup camera. You've got a backup camera and parking sensors here. And the other nice thing that the car remembers when you go, if you were in B versus D for drive, B is the higher regen braking forward gear. I just went to reverse there and then back to drive, and it remembered I wanted to be in B. So that's kind of a nice touch. The final thing that I think is impressive now that I'm spending a little more time with this car versus the 6-minute drive I did with it before, it is quiet, even at speed at, you know, 45, 55 miles an hour. This is a quiet cabin, which is nice. Obviously, every EV is going to be fairly quiet, but you still have to worry about things like tire noise and wind noise, and this is, for being a non-luxury brand, you know, this is a Volkswagen, not an Audi, I think it's pleasantly quiet in here. So definitely more impressed with this one than necessarily with the rear drive car, although I thought the rear drive car was also totally fine. But I think this makes a little bit better impression to those of us who are driving enthusiasts. So nice to see it. We love to see it. More to come. I'm hoping to get one of these for a full review sometime in the near future, so please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, please stay safe, be well. We'll see you again soon.